Hey everybody. Our STEM project for this month has to do with matter, we're going to talk about what matter is. And matter is everything that's around us, and it takes different forms based on how the little teeny tiny atoms that make up every single thing around us, how they're connected to each other. So the three main forms of matter that we would see around us are solids, liquids, and gases. So solids are things like my phone case. They're in a specific shape. All of the little atoms are stuck together in a very specific shape, and that shape doesn't change. It's not gonna, unless we melt it maybe or burn it, but it's gonna stay like this. Liquids, those atoms are still connected, but they're much more loose and they will move around a lot. So water moves over things. And when you pour water into a cup, it'll take the shape of the solid cup that it's poured into. Gases, their atoms aren't connected and they're much more dispersed. So gases are ones that are kind of hard to see. A gas that's all around us is the air that we breathe. A gas that you probably are familiar with is helium that's in balloons that makes them float. Another form of a gas would be steam. And one thing that will change matter is if you heat it or if you change its temperature, if you heat it or you make it really cold. And the best example of that is water. Water, normal temperature, is a liquid, right? We all know water. If you heat it up, let's say you boil it, it turns into steam, the vapor that comes up from the water when the atoms dissipate, which means they get farther apart from each other. But if you take water and you freeze it, it turns into ice, and ice is solid until what? You heat it up and it melts and it turns back into water. And that's what's so cool about matter and the types of matter that are around us. So one way of looking at matter or playing around with it a little bit is some worksheets that I put at the end of your packet, at the end of this experiment. But one of the most fun things to play with, I think, is Oobleck. And Oobleck is a non-Newtonian form of matter. So you're going to turn off the video. You're going to go get the materials that you need for it. They're all listed there. You're going to need your cornstarch. You're going to need your glitter. You're going to need some water, a bowl, and a metal spoon. And then if you've got it and want to use it, some food coloring. And come back and turn on the video again, and I will show you how to make Oobleck. Bye. Hey everybody, what you need to make sure you've got is for your Oobleck experiment is a bowl, about a quarter cup of water. You have a half a cup of cornstarch, that's this. So it's always in a proportion of 2 parts cornstarch to 1 part water, so half a cup, 1/4 cup. You guys have your containers of glitter. If you have food coloring at home and you want to make it a fun color, you can do that. I'm going to make mine green. You want to make sure you have a metal spoon because this stuff is really kind of difficult to stir. Now, what's interesting about Oobleck, as far as our discussion of matter is concerned, is that it's what's considered a non-Newtonian type of matter. And that means that it changes based on, in this case, force. So remember we talked about water. When it gets heated, it turns into a different type of matter. If it's frozen, it turns into another type of matter. Well, with Oobleck, it's force. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But let's mix it up first. Now, if you are going to be coloring your Oobleck, you want to add your food coloring to your water before you mix it with your cornstarch. And you want to put a couple of drops in, okay? And sort of stir that swirl that around to mix it in. Okay, so we're gonna put the cornstarch in the bowl. Make sure you put down paper, or I've got this on a tray so I don't make as much of a mess. And you wanna pour in a little bit at a time, because if you don't want it to get too wet. So, see, it's making this nice green. And actually, you know what I'm gonna do as well is at this point, I'm gonna also add some glitter. I like glitter, it'll be pretty. So you don't have to add the glitter if you don't want the glitter. You can just make it white or you make it plain, whatever color you've chosen. And now, whoops, these cups are rather slippery. So let me put a little bit more in. And it's very, as I said before, it's very hard to stir, but it really is cool. So just be careful, get all of those edges in, and just keep working at it. It will mix in, I promise, I promise, I promise. But this is your way of seeing how it changes based on force, because the force of moving the spoon through it is changing what it feels like. Because you see, it looks liquid, and then you're trying to put it through, and it's really hard to put through, which doesn't make sense, right? So, okay, I'm gonna just do that. I'm gonna get it off my spoon a little bit. Let's see what we got here. All right, now what you can do is you can pick it up, you can put it in your hands, but what's cool is you could take it and it turns into a solid when you grab some of it, right? So I can make it, I'm pushing it together, I'm making a ball. See what happens? And then when I let go of it, it just turns into a liquid. And you also want to have some wipes around or something to, to wipe up your fingers. But it cleans up really easily. So see, this looks like a solid ball, right? See, I could make it into a ball, but then, look at it, it's dripping off of my hands. So you can keep playing with this. It only lasts about a day. So play with it as much as you want. And then the best way to clean it up, moms and dads or caregivers, is to let it dry overnight. And then it's much easier to clean up. So now another thing that's fun to do with it is if you've got a strainer or anything like that. I don't have a strainer here at the library, but I found this, which has, you see, little holes in it. Let's see what happens when we take it and we pour it on top. Will it go through? No, that doesn't work. I thought it was gonna work. Might do better with something that's got a bigger holes in it. Let's try, maybe the bigger part of this will go through. Let's put it on top there. Yeah, there we go. See, it's coming out of the bottom. It's kind of fun. Now, you know what another non-Newtonian, I don't even know what to call it. It's not a fluid, it's not a solid, it's kind of a mixture of the two, is ketchup. And when they talk about force with ketchup, if you take ketchup and you shake it, it gets much more liquid. So that is another example of a non-Newtonian fluid, or non-Newtonian, you can say that 3 times fast, that's great, type of matter, which isn't a solid, it isn't a liquid, it's not a gas, obviously. It's kind of a combination of the two. So anyway, enjoy your oobleck and have a great So I hope you guys had fun with the oobleck. I hope you didn't make too big of a mess, but luckily it's easy to clean up unless you get food coloring straight on your fingers. That might take a few baths to get off. But so I hope you had fun playing around with oobleck and just sort of seeing what kind of things you could do with it. And what I think is interesting is you didn't heat it up or freeze it, but you could change what it was based on the amount of force or pressure you put on it. And that's pretty cool. So that said, you've got all of your worksheets, and I'd like you to think about the kinds of things around your house that you could decide if they're liquids or solids or gases. And think up a few examples of your own, and then take some of the examples that I put and decide where they all go. And I hope you have fun with that, and I will see you next month. Bye.